welcome tonight. My name is Ron. I'm an alcoholic. I'd like to welcome you all here tonight for our anniversary meeting. Before we get started, there's so much work that goes into this. So many people behind the scenes. It was Tim's dream child, that cannoli cake. We got to give him one. Mrs. K slopped together 5 trays of baked ziti. Give her a look too. Sanjay does all the logistics. There's so much. And Scott handled all the transportation for Pete and Marion made this all happen tonight. And I just want to thank Pete for coming out, and Marion, great job today. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate everybody coming here. I want to thank Sue again, Sue L. Fantastic job, Sue. Tim's going to get this going. Enjoy. Thank you.
Whew, what a night, what a night. Good evening, folks. How are we all doing? Good? Thank you very much. Good evening. I'm Tim, and I'm an alcoholic. I'd like to welcome you tonight to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of AA. This is tonight a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday night here at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street, 8:30 p.m. at Doylestown, PA. As you can tell, the fellowship starts early. Every Saturday by 7:30, we're here, coffee, cronuts, the whole 9 yards. Please come. That's when so much work gets done, when we have a chance to sit down and chat. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and the teachings of the 12 steps. We do record all of our speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you have a problem with that, please let me or Ron or somebody in the home group know. This is an open meeting of AA. The group would like to welcome all of our newcomers, anyone who is here for the first time. If you are new or you're here for the first time, please raise your hand. Very good. All those who are not are going to say on the count of 3, welcome. 1, 2, 3. Welcome. Awesome sauce. Sorry. The Conscious Contact Group, the speaker group, does encourage sponsorship. Would anyone here who has a working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hand now. Fantastic. If you are one of those who is new to AA, or are looking for a sponsor, please find someone before or after a meeting. Those hands can be a lifeline for you. Are there any other announcements besides the ones that Ron has always posted on the Conscious Contact website? Tons of information on that website, but if you have anything you'd like to publicly announce now for the good of AA, we will acknowledge you now. Yes, sir.
That's Joe.
Hi, Joe.
We got 2 new meetings. One is Tuesday night at 7:30, Trinity Episcopal Church in Buckingham. It's a big boat breakdown. The other one is Friday night, Trinity Episcopal Church in Buckingham. It's at 8:30. It's an hour-long speaker. It's like the format we do here. We use your support. Thanks.
Awesome. Very good. Yes, sir.
Thanks,
Dustin, how are you?
Next Saturday, the 29th, is the Back to Basics group that meets at Mount Carmel for anniversary. There is food at 6 p.m. and there's a speaker following.
Very good. We love anniversaries around here. Yes, I'm sorry, all the way in the back. Yes, sir. Frank, how are you? Very good, very good. Anyone who would like some further information, see him after the meeting, okay? In the back of the room, we do have a meeting list, big books, all that kind of stuff is available to you on easy terms, or frankly, we'll give it to you. There is a bucket in the back, though. I think it's behind the pretzels somewhere back there. If you have a chance and you go by there, please feel free. We do a great job of trying to provide this stuff for you free of charge, free and fun, always free and fun. But it helps when you guys help us out. If you would like a copy of any of our CDs, our speaker tonight, any speakers in the past, anything that we have done here in the probably the last 5 years, they're somewhere on CD. We also have a project going on right now where Sanjay is downloading stuff on our website that can be downloaded to your phone. You can use it So there's all kinds of great things. Please see Ron or one of us if you'd like a copy of his CD, or if you want to see Sanjay about how to get on their website and do some downloading. It's all awesome, okay? I would now like to have Zach please come up, and Zach's going to read the preamble for us.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Zach, and I'm an alcoholic. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And I've asked Juan to come up and read the 12 steps.
Louder, I should be. Hi, I'm Vaughn, alcoholic. These are the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Step 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over the care of God as we understood Him. Step 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Step 7. Humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. Step 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9, made direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
My friends, we do have a seventh tradition around here. It doesn't say make it rain, but I'm going to ask you to do so. We're going to, just so you know that every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, we're going to pass the basket around. As you do know, we have no dues, no fees. We do have expenses, and we get a kick out of doing all this. I mean, honestly, we get a kick out of the food, you know, the cannoli cake for our anniversary. These things are just a lot of fun for us to do, and we always appreciate the help you give us. This home group takes a great deal of pride in making it fun and free. While that's happening, I'm going to ask you to pull out your cell phones and turn them off. Please put them on mute. Just please make sure that they are turned off. It could be a terrible distraction in the middle of our speaker, and that, you know, we hear some ringtone to a lollipop, you know, some kind of a whatever. You figure out the song. It can be a problem. Also, I'd like to remind you about smoking. I just went out to my truck and there's a cigarette sitting in the middle of the street. Guys, please, 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 we'd love to be able to use this venue. And the church likes us here. They love the fact that this is outreach, but they consistently ask us not to leave cigarette butts on the property. You guys know this is not new. Please go across the street, over to 7-Eleven, up to the courthouse, wherever you got to go. Just smoke across the street and leave your butts in the big green can that's out, orange can that's out there, okay? One of the fortunate things about being in this group is that we have incredible friends, and our chairman's able to call on them from time to time to come up here and do incredible work of service and recovery for our group. And today, if you were here this morning, it was an incredible experience I have heard him and seen him before. It never gets old. So it even pleases me more to be able to welcome him here tonight to address you. He is on loan from us tonight from his home group, which is Alcoholics and God. He comes to us tonight all the way from sunny Fort Lauderdale. I give you tonight Mr. Peter M.
It's good. My name is Peter. I'm a recovered alcoholic. Grateful to be alive and sober and part of a sacred place called Alcoholics Anonymous. And thank Ron and the committee who put this thing together to have Marion and I up here and share this afternoon a little workshop we did and invited back again. And Scott for being so kind and taking us around. So I'm grateful to be here tonight to share with you, hopefully my story. I get excited about events like this because we get to share not only a common problem, we get to share the common solution, the way out of this thing which has haunted for many of us for so long, including the loved ones, our families who suffer from alcoholism, whether they're alcoholic or not. And we have this way out. And what we get to do is shout from the rooftops the solution, shout from the rooftops this power called God, because that's what this whole movement has been about. And we get to do many things because of Alcoholics Anonymous. We get to be self-supporting through our own contributions. We get to have families. We get to have friendships. We get to have integrity and some humility. We get to do great things. And the spiritual walk makes no sense to a thinking mind because some of us have really hit the depths of despair while we were out there. We fell short many, many times and did things that can make us kind of squirrely when we think about it. But yet, because of this power called God and what we get to experience in the sacred rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, we kind of transcend all of that and able to do fantastic things with our life, do great things with our life. Whether we go back into our homes or our communities or run companies, whatever it might be. And the huge shift for folks like us is, or for me, as someone who despised God and now loves his God and tries to do what he sees fit. So it's a great experience to be a part of a sacred place called Alcoholics Anonymous. June 23rd, 1988 was my separation from alcohol. I'm a recovered alcoholic, and I say that because I am. And anything less than that would be falsely humble. Not cured, not better than, but just recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. The thing that drove me in here. The obsession in the mind, the phenomenon called craving that I could not get away from no matter how much I wished it or tried, even with a powerful desire. It owned me. And it owned me because my mind owned me. And because of this fellowship that I came into, the program in the fellowship and sponsorship, which took me to the big book, which took me to God, we get past that. Not cured, but recovered. And I don't want to be special AA or better than. It's just my truth. But I'm really clear on something. The way we get and the way I get recovered, I can get unrecovered just as quickly if I don't continue to chop wood and carry water and work with the spiritual disciplines in steps 10 and 11 and submit to my God and submit or surrender to this process and be accountable to a sponsor and have a life of service. And if you know me, my whole life is one of service. It's what I do. For Alcoholics Anonymous, for God. Even what I do professionally, I mean, I get paid for that. But the spirit of what I do is giving what I have to others. And no attachments to an outcome. So I chop wood and carry wood, I plow the field, God does the growing, and I'm very grateful for the life that God has given me because it looks, in contrast, vastly different to what walked in here in 1988. In 1988, I was on my way to my 7 treatment center. I was living in an abandoned building in Alphabet City in Lower Manhattan. I had tried Alcoholics Anonymous drunk. They told me it works better when you're sober. I hated God. I hated people in AA. When the H&I folks would come in, I really didn't have a good time with them. I couldn't wait for them to leave. I was full of contempt. I was full of anger, full of fear. A lot of those things. A lot of the bedevilments only. The other thing, the underlying issue with that was I really didn't think I had a chance to get well. I knew it. My mind would tell me, you're Pete Marinelli, who are you kidding? Just get drunk and get it over with. But there was a shift that happened to me on the day of June 23rd, 1988 that completely revolutionized my life, jump-started this whole thing, was the catalyst behind it, and the motivator was pain, and how dark it is before the dawn. Because on June 23rd, 1988, I remember thinking, if I get a drink in me, I'm going to die, and if I don't get a drink in me, I'm going to die. And I didn't see AA as a way out. I didn't see treatment as a way out. I definitely didn't see God as a way out. But God presented to me a solution in no uncertain terms, in fact, in much abundance. It didn't feel that way at the time. It really felt like I was melting on the inside, just dying on the inside. I didn't know what path I was about to be put on and how my life was going to explode. And it started little by slowly, but it was about to happen. And it came out of the requirement that I found a guy like me needs before I even get to Alcoholics Anonymous. And that is my GOD, my gift of desperation, where alcohol beats us into a state of reasonableness, where we become really desperate to do anything it takes to get well, and we're not negotiating anymore. There's no lurking notion, no reservation. I will do anything not to die. And that's really what it came down to for me. I wasn't thinking of AA or treatment or any of those things, or going back to my religious community. I don't want to die. And I'll do anything not to die. But it was coupled with, if I don't get a drink, I'm going to die. And if I get a drink, I'm going to die. What do? I was at that jumping off place. Now what? God cut through that, intervened, set up the whole scenario for me, where the only place I can go to is back to this power called God. I didn't even think He was going to work in my life, if He was even listening. We get that while we're sober on this path called Alcoholics Anonymous. When some of us will bottom out in AA sober. Because we start to walk away from spiritual disciplines. We start to think we have arrived. We start to think we're cured. I don't need a sponsor. I don't need to sponsor people. I'm feeling good. And the goal is to feel good and not get better. And little by slowly, untreated alcoholism begins to show up in the form of fear and unmanageability and a lot of acting out, a lot of unspiritual behavior and thinking that we make spiritual, we convince ourselves it's okay to do, and little by slowly we start to drift away from the very power which gave us a life and breathes life into us and breathes sobriety into us. Because it goes underground and resurfaces in other areas. They're called sprees. Sex sprees, food sprees, money sprees, fear sprees, anger sprees, they're called sprees, gambling sprees. And we justify all of it because now the mind is God again. And the mind doesn't negotiate. It demands obedience. And we start to submit to the mind rather than submitting to God. And on June 23rd, 1988, I was completely out of my mind for a brief moment. Completely out of my mind. And what I'm happy to report to you, currently, for all of us, if we're going to experience God, we need to be out of our mind, detached from the mind, because if I'm in my mind, I can't hear God. If I'm in my mind, the God I'm listening to is me. And I believe it's God. And I pay for this in all sorts of absurd actions and ideas because I think God was talking to me, but it was really me. And so when we're completely null and void of thinking, it's when suddenly we hear this other voice. And that is done for us in an act of mercy by God. It's called the grace of God. And because of Alcoholics Anonymous, I get to experience that power which gives me grace. But on June 23rd, 1988, when I was laying in the back of a hallway, I got up off the floor to go out and hustle up money to get a drink in me because I needed to drink now. Because if I didn't drink, I was going to get really ill. And I could feel it coming on, waking up that way, the dry heaves, all of it. I got up the floor and collapsed back on the floor, and here came the tears. And it was as if I was having a nervous breakdown. I felt like I was dying. And God rescued me from that, lifted me past that. With the very same power I despised and loathed, I turned back to and begged for mercy. Take me from this, I don't want to die, was my plea to God. Not take me to AA, not get her back, not get my job back, not make me a good citizen. I don't want to die. That was the plea. And it's probably as honest as I'll ever be in my entire life. There were no bargaining chips left. There was nothing. It was me at the edge of a cliff. I'm not jumping. I can't do it anymore. And God, in His infinite mercy, gave me some wholeness of mind, some clear thinking. And I reached out for help. My dad showed up and placed me in my 7 treatment center. And I'm here tonight to talk about that, to bear witness to this great power, to bear witness to what goes on in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. The sacred rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And if you haven't found out they're sacred, I pray you stick around long enough to experience this sacredness where we get reborn and resurrected in here. I was talking this afternoon about, there's another quote, unless a man be born again, he can't see the kingdom of God. Our book talks about being reborn and recreated. Unless we're made new from the inside out, we can have the kingdom in front of us lit up in neon lights and we'll keep driving right past it. Still looking for it. In money, in relationships, in prestige, in property, whatever it may be. In lots of service, thinking that's going to bring us God. It's only because of God that we're able to do service. Something happens when we get aligned with God and we practice fidelity to this power called God, whatever our God is. In fact, no matter how limited our conception of this God is, my big book says we're on our way. All I need is just a little bit of a willingness, a mustard seed of willingness, and the mountain will move. I think I can show up with that if I have a first step in here where I know if I drink, I'm going to die. And I'm going to drink based on my first step. I'm doomed to drink. I'm a real alcoholic. I'm the guy on page 21. Good, bad, indifferent, I will drink. The time and place will come where I will drink unless I have the thing to combat that and get me recovered as God. That's what AA is about. For me, it's been my personal experience. My whole lineage talks about this. It is about driving a drunk back to a God of their understanding and nothing less than that great fact. That's how I have relationships. That's how I go to work. That's how I even get out of bed in the morning. Is because of a God-guided life rather than a mind-dominated life. And on June 23rd, 1988, God spoke through a very thick, high brick wall that I've been trying to knock down and get over and get around for so long. When I finally surrendered, I was forced into a place of surrender, dropping to my knees, begging for help. Suddenly, God spoke through the brick wall and gave me some clarity and some directions to follow. And only in desperation did I follow. I'm not that bright. I'm not that insightful. I'm not that spiritual. It was truly through desperation that I listened. I didn't even know what I was in for and followed directions. And I got into my 7 treatment center. And as I said a moment ago, I'm here tonight to bear witness to that. Where the dying come in here and begin to live again. Where the deaf can hear and the blind can see. It makes no sense. The whole thing we do in AA makes absolutely no sense to a thinking mind. A logical mind says, this is impossible. That a wretch like me can do what I'm able to do today. And what I'm able to do today is eat 3 times a day and shower a couple of times and put on clean clothes. To me, that's a huge miracle. Have a job and actually go to work 5 days a week and report to work. And give an honest day's labor. And go home to an apartment that I actually pay rent every month. Not dodge the landlord for months at a time, and when he catches you, I curse him out. Indeed, the miraculous. And obviously God has allowed me to do more, gives me favor with certain things in my life. And what he asked me to do is go talk about him. Go talk about this fellowship which he gave to me, gave to us. And how many of our meetings are we afraid to talk about God in an AA meeting? And the whole thing is because of God. The whole thing's based on God. And nothing less than that. We were afraid to talk about God and shout God from the rooftops. Talk about this big book, how it takes us to God. Talk about our sponsorship and the sacredness of that. How one drunk will listen to another drunk and not charge $150 an hour to do it. We do it for fun and for free. I'm in the treatment center business. I love what I do. I don't like the business because as soon as you call up, they say, what kind of insurance you have, what type of money you have. First question they ask you. I don't have insurance, I have no money. Click. But you call up a drunk, you tell them in trouble, they come get you. And they walk you through the dark nights. And sometimes when we got to scream and cry through the night, a drunk, all they have to do is sometimes just hold on to you. And let you scream and weep through the night. And get you into another day. And another day. And then you're sponsoring people, and then you wait at the door and wait for the next one to come in and hold on to them. That's truly God's work, for fun and for free, that we nurse the folks who are dying in the sacred rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I know because I've done it, and they did it to me when I got into AA. So June 23rd, 1988, I didn't know, but my life was about to take this drastic or dramatic change. I was about to get into a new lane. The spiritual walk, sometimes we think on the spiritual walk, I was one of them, thought it was going to be butterflies and harps playing in the background and angels flying around my room, and I was going to be joyous, happy, and free, and levitating every day of the week, and oming all the time. And the spiritual walk is a pruning of the tree. We'll get that, but there's a lot of chopping wood and carrying water, and a lot of challenging belief systems where we look like there's no way out of this. Oh my God, the road has gotten incredibly narrow. I'm being made really uncomfortable. My sponsor's challenging everything about me. And yet we continue to put one foot in front of the other. I don't strive for spiritual intoxication anymore. I did that when I was new. You know, run into all these retreats and motivational speakers and CDs and all sorts of stuff so I can feel good all the time and get drunk listening to this stuff, if you will. Spiritually drunk. That's not a spiritual walk. It's my new drug. The spiritual walk is humble, close to the ground. And we walk around softly and carrying a big book, armed with the facts, looking for the new drunk. And I plow the field and watch God do the growing. I'm about 14 years old. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and my family was like most of us. You know, I don't want to cop to a dysfunctional family because they're not here to defend themselves. But we had our stuff. I had a mom who was alcoholic and addicted to pill and tried many attempts at suicide. Knowing what I know now because of the business I've been in for so long, I would clearly say my mom was extreme bipolar, maybe even a borderline personality. She suffered a lot, emotional problems. And tried to combat that with drink and drug. And several times she tried to commit suicide. And as a young boy, I'd pick my mom as much as I can up off the floor. She wasn't dressed properly. I'd throw something on her to cover her up, hide the pills, hide the booze before Dad got home. My dad makes Tony Soprano look like Tinkerbell. He's a tough guy from South Brooklyn. Totally afraid of this man. You know, he was the alpha male guy. There wasn't times for hugs and fireside talks. It was like, what happened today? Give me facts. Here's money. Go fix it. Any problems, throw punches, ask questions later. This is how he was brought up, and he expected me to do the same. I was into like music and the hippies. I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to play for the Rolling Stones. I love Eric Clapton. I don't want to beat people up. I just want to, hey man, what's happening? I wanted to be a musician. I wanted my hair long. I loved the hippies. My dad thought medication was in store for me. He doesn't come from that. So he and I had this huge problem. We walked to 2 different beats. We didn't even get along. And I was really afraid of him. My mom, who I adored, and she kind of supported what I did, was alcoholic and an addict. And in January 1974, she succeeded at taking her life. And my life completely changed when I came to, in fear, hearing my dad on the 911 call, I think my wife is dead, come quick. I remember laying in my lower bunk, literally frozen in fear. I can't believe what I'm hearing. She finally did it. Now, I wasn't conscious of it then, but I would like to say that somewhere in there, that this God and me parted ways. I didn't believe anymore. I didn't believe in hope anymore. I didn't believe in anything. Everything changed, a drastic turn into a new lane. And by the time I was 15 and 16, I had a good chip on my shoulder. That God gave me a really bad deck of cards. I'm still stuck with Dad, who I don't like, and I know he don't like me. We try to avoid each other at all costs. He's this tough guy, and I am not. I want to make music and hang out, and he's looking for me to beat up people to make money. When I was 5, by the way, that was going on. I was 5. My dad would say, "You're not a loan shark yet? What's wrong with you?" You know. It was about almost 6 months after my mom passed. It was like spring, summertime, and my friends were hanging out on a corner. And back in the day, everyone belonged to what we called a crew or a clique. You hung out on a corner, maybe in the schoolyard. We didn't have woods in Brooklyn, so we had corners and schoolyards. And my friends were drinking Colt 45 beer, and they were drinking and joyous, happy, and free. I wanted what they had to offer. There were girls on the corner. I wanted what they had to offer, but I was afraid to talk to them. I was just afraid, driven by 100 forms of fear. And this one night, I put my hand in there and I drank some beer. And nothing happened after drinking some beer, so I continued to drink a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And then something began to happen to me for the first time. I started to experience a sense of ease and comfort. I was kind of I can breathe again, back in my skin. At the very end of my drinking, I drank just to breathe. As I continued to drink, I realized that for the first time, I feel alive. I feel in control. I feel I got it together. I got that alcohol courage. I got the beer muscles. I was able to roughhouse with the guys and talk to the girls, and there were no problems. It was a good day now. It was one for all and all for one. I love the effect produced by alcohol. Bill says it best. I had arrived. I drank Colt 45 beer. I arrived. This was good. And I remember how my perceptions of life began to change. I wanted to be a musician. And I played music into my early 20s. But I really wanted to be a musician. I loved the hippies. I loved the whole music scene as a young boy. I was a gifted little musician. But I remember that night watching the older guys down the block. The pinky ring, the sunglass guys, the gangsters. And suddenly I says, that's what I want to be. I'll be a musician another time. I want to be like these guys had it. And everything began to shift. And suddenly I wanted to be like my dad. I wanted that persona. I wanted that confidence. And that came to me by drinking beer. Perception shifted. And little by slowly, my two kid brothers who idolized me got to be in my way. Everyone was in my way. Life was in my way. Because I needed to get what I had to get in order to feel like a man. Everything changed. My point of view on life changed. And only because of Alcoholics Anonymous, it changed again. Where we get to see through God's eyes, we get to hear what God's is. Our behavior is godly. Rather than having a mind-dominated life, looking at everything and acting out through fear. The shift in perceptions. I knew nothing about this. I just knew I drank, I felt great, and I wanted to be something other than what I was thinking about all this time. I want to be a gangster. I want to drink and be merry. I want to recapture that corner on a Saturday night for the rest of my life every time I drink. And I couldn't. When my friends decided to go home that night, I remember feeling panic in my chest. You can't pull the plug on this. I'm feeling good. Do not end. And it made me feel even more different, more unique than everyone else. As I'm drinking, I'm feeling a part of, but when they went home to families. I'm going home to just dad and my two brothers. Mom's not there. There's void in this home. And if you stop drinking, I have to face that reality again. They were going home to their families. And I felt even more unique and more different and more alone. So what do? You drink to get back in again. And the following Saturday I drank. And I drank. And I drank. And little by slowly, progression takes over, and I'm drinking regularly. And along with regular drinking comes consequences. My dad wondering what was going on with me. My kid brothers becoming afraid and then embarrassed of my behavior. But as long as I was drinking, I was okay. Because I'm selfish, self-centered. I'm not a nice guy. Some of us, I think we've been dropped on our head. We come and tell you, say, I'm really a good person. No, I'm not. I'm not a good guy. When I'm drinking or not drinking and untreated, I am not a good guy. It's only because of God I get to be a good guy. I get to treat people with respect. I get to practice fidelity to God in relations. I get to do good things, but it's only because of God. Because I'm not a nice guy without God. And without God, I'm drunk. My dad would read me these riot acts about what was happening to me. And would tell me so many times, you're just like your mother. And I resented him even more. That he was picking on this woman who was now dead. And looked at her as weak and cowardly. And he was telling me as a young man, I'm just like her. So I was growing up with vengeance in my heart. With hate in my heart. And I thought that was a good thing. That made me more of a man. And yet it was killing me. It was blocking me from any kind of transformation in my life. Resentment's the number one offender. By the time I got to AA, I had 1,000 of them. You know what will happen to us in recovery too? I've experienced some of this. I would think that it would be the drink that would kill me immediately. Or if I hung out with the wrong people, a gunshot would kill me immediately. Or a car wreck would kill me immediately. But what can happen to us in Alcoholics Anonymous while we're sober? We die from 1,000 cuts. Little by slowly, we just start to bleed out. Resentments, fear, contempt, no God, no sponsor, no helping. And we just start to bleed out. We don't even pick up a drink when we're dying in the sacred rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I got caught stealing from my dad. I was a young guy, and my dad put the pieces of the puzzle together, and I went off to my first treatment center. And I went into my first treatment center. I immediately compared. There was no such thing as identification. I compared with who was around me. 5 treatment centers, 10 treatment centers, jail records, all of this stuff. And I said, I got to get out of here. I didn't concede to my innermost self I was alcoholic. I got caught stealing from my dad. He thought I was drinking too much and put me in treatment. And after 28 days, I got out and I got drunk again. I remember right before this treatment center, I was sitting in the car with this young lady I met the night before. So like I'm thinking I'm in love and we're going to have this long life together and planning the names of my children and with her. And I'm sitting in the car. And in Brooklyn, you got this, you drive, you kind of like lean over like this, you know, like you got it all together. And I'm playing this role like I'm like Snoop Dogg and John Gotti rolled into one. You got to see this. And I'm just like, look at me. You realize how blessed you ought to be with me. I'm a man's man. Then my dad rolled up because I was stealing from him. And he rolled up and jumped out of the car. He threw the cigarette down and this eyebrow goes up, which means you're in serious trouble. And he walked across the street and he's screaming my name, and I handled it like any man would, and I says, honey, that's my dad, you talk to him, I got to get out of here, and I start to run away. And then my dad caught me, and the very first thing I did, because I was so honorable, I says, it's her fault. I blamed her, the guy's on the corner, and then I began to cry. Mom killed herself. And my dad says, I understand, but you're going to treatment. I didn't even know what treatment was. You're going to a place in Amityville, Long Island. I don't even know what Amityville is other than Amityville Horror, is what I do now. And I never forget, as we were driving up to this hospital in Amityville, Long Island, I remember I got this cold feeling down my stomach. It's the same hospital we brought my mom to 1 billion times. What a rude awakening this is. I'm picking up where she left off. That was not a good feeling. 28 days later, they discharged me. I didn't concede out to my innermost self I'm alcoholic. I had that woman in the car meet me at the door with the pint. I met her, cracked the seal, inquired about AA on the Lower East Side of Manhattan on St. Mark's Place, and that was the end of AA. There was no AA. There was no conceding. There was no coming to you because I didn't think I had a problem, so why should I even consider a solution? And I was right back to the same vicious cycle. My big book tells me years of living with an alcoholic will make any child or wife neurotic. The whole family has become ill. By the time God gets me sober in 1988, my family was suffering from alcoholism. I don't drink and go to meetings for several reasons. First, if I had the power to not drink, why would I have to come to a meeting? I don't have that kind of power. And where does it include in that statement about bringing back this precious gift of sobriety and take it into my homes, occupations, and affairs and making amends for the people who are caught in my drive-by? It's a selfish statement. It's an untrue statement for a guy like me. Because my family was dying of alcoholism. You know, when the phone would ring late at night and I wasn't home, this is the call. When the fire truck would go down a block, or the ambulance, or the police car with the siren going, that's got to be for him. And they walked on eggshells every single day, and I could not see that. Because I was so self-absorbed and driven by this thinking mind, the predator, that would not allow me for a moment the truth. That's not its job. Its job is to edge God out and keep me sick, drunk or sober. And anytime I get into, I'll figure it out, that self-reliance, it's a lie. I can't do that. Anytime I get into managing my life sober, I'm in trouble. Anytime I try to put my hands on something, I'm in trouble because it's self-reliance. Everything must go to God. Everything must be submitted to God. And I wait. Or my sponsor directs me. I'm out of the managing business. I blow it every time. My experience proves that. I made my second treatment center. I made my third treatment center. Somewhere, and I got a job as a dock worker, a longshoreman in South Brooklyn. It's an interesting occupation at the time because guys are fed up with their day at sunrise. It's 6 a.m. and they're already pissed off. And I go to work for them. And I quickly learned how to hustle money and steal to get money for drinking. It was a job back in the day that was one of the most powerful unions in the nation. It was a job that was impossible to get fired from. You cannot get fired from this job. If you got fired, there'd be a wildcat strike from East Coast to West Coast. Work would stop. because one of the brothers got fired. So you couldn't get fired. The steamship companies wouldn't fire anyone because they don't wanted the work to continue. Couldn't get fired from this job. I got fired from that job. And there was no wildcat strike. They threw a party. They were fed up. My dad says, you're fired. Don't come back anymore. I was stealing and borrowing money from people I shouldn't be in the same neighborhood with. Dropping names like crazy. I got away with a lot of it because of my dad. And then it hit the fan one day, and he says, don't come back to work. You're an embarrassment. And I hated him. I eventually got into my 5th treatment center. And I went into my 5th treatment center, addicted to non-conference approved dry goods along with alcohol and pills. I had marks all over my body, abscesses in my arms, urinating blood, about 130 pounds. I'm about 190 and change now. So 60 pounds, about less than I weigh now. The black eyes, the whole look. Filthy, disgusted, hateful, vengeful, hated God, and I really thought God gave me a bad deck of cards. I just despised everyone. And when I went in there, I said, I'm not using that other stuff anymore. It's too much of a killer, and the detoxes were horrific. My detoxes were horrific, just one worse than the next, and I was in for it this time. But after about 9 weeks of being in this treatment center, they kept me there for 9 weeks. What they did was they lied to insurance companies. They put down some bogus issues that I had so they would keep me in longer. He needs long term. And they held me as long as they could for 9 weeks, and they sat me down and says, we're going to discharge you next week. And I'm thinking I'm good to go because I haven't been thinking about using. I've been thinking about drinking. I put on some weight. I'm feeling good. I'm good. I'm Moses. I'm good to go. And they discharged me on a Saturday morning from that same place in Amityville, Long Island. And as soon as I crossed the threshold onto Sunrise Highway, the illness met me like a cold slap in the face. Bang, I was with my illness again. The 100 voices start talking. The anxiety began. I lost my appetite. I was feeling shaky. The world is moving. When you leave treatment, you walk outside. The world is moving awfully fast. You feel like you're just trying to get some traction. And the first thing that came back to me is get a drink. I can't drink, get a drink, I can't drink, get a drink, I can't drink. And I'm doing this whole tennis match back and forth, and I can't take it. I didn't sleep Saturday, I didn't sleep Sunday, I couldn't eat, I couldn't do anything. It's called white knuckle sobriety. On Monday, I'm standing outside of a liquor store in downtown Brooklyn. My family lived in Staten Island. I made it all the way to Brooklyn because I figured no one would see me. I needed to drink, and here's why. My body didn't need a drink. Not 9 weeks of being in treatment. I was past post-acute withdrawal syndrome. My body did not need a drink or any mood or mind-altering substance. My body was fine. But my mind said, yeah, you do need a drink. The great obsession of every alcoholic. That somehow, someday, be able to control and enjoy my drinking. My mind said, get a drink. It'll be okay. Just one little drinky poo. Everything will be okay. You need to drink. And you know what? My body started to feel sick. I remember standing outside the liquor store, pacing back and forth, and I'm doing this with my legs. I'm walking back and forth. My stomach feels really funny. My head's going to explode. I got the sweats going on. There's nothing wrong with my body, but my mind says, yeah, you need a drink, and here come the symptoms. For some of my friends who did cocaine, did you ever notice right before, right after you cop cocaine, you got to use the restroom really quick? There's nothing wrong with the belly, but something goes on that it feels like you're sick. And here I am pacing back and forth, and he opens up the gate. I roll right in there, put my money under the glass partition, and I get a pint of brandy. And it went down as fast as I could drink it down. And you know what? It worked. The brandy did what it's supposed to do. It settled me down. The sweating stopped. My belly got good. The voices stopped. I was feeling okay. Comfortably numb, nice and warm all over. That's what it's supposed to do. But the problem with me is I had to get a second pint. Because once we have one drink, if you're an alcoholic, you need to get a second drink. There's no one drink and going home. I need a second drink, so I needed a second pint. By the time I finish the second pint, I'm now drunk. So what do? I start panhandling, so I go into the projects to get pills to go along with the drink and maybe get enough money to get another pint, and thus started one more journey to the institution for me. But I couldn't see that. See, as an alcoholic, my illness will never announce its arrival. Whether I'm on a sex spree, a food spree, a money spree, it's never going to announce its arrival, but we get hijacked at some point. And after 9 weeks of being in treatment, I got hijacked that quick. And I was right back as if I'd never been in a treatment center. The old thinking came back, the genie was out of the bottle, game on. I'm thinking where I can steal money, who I can rob, what I can do, how I'm plotting all the time. It's a 24-hour job. Right back to misery, depression, and humiliation and degradation. I spent a day and a half in my 6th treatment center, and I was homeless. After my 5th treatment center, my dad decided to get me this little apartment, and if I was able to prove myself, he was going to get me my job back, and he got me this little studio apartment in Brooklyn. I didn't pay rent. I had all sorts of unsavory characters showing up all hours of the night. I'm still not working. The place looked like a dungeon. There were Blackberry brandy bottles all over, laundry all over, filthy laundry, garbage all over. Sneaking in through the back door because I couldn't come in through the front door because I owed the landlord money. He'd bang on my door. I wouldn't answer, making out I'm not home. And I lived in terror all the time. The place was a pigsty. And I eventually got thrown out of there. My bed was soiled with cigarette holes in it. It was a mess. No comforter and pillowcase, just a mattress that was bloodstained and soiled that I would just pass out in. It reeked, I reeked more. I did not care. I don't really care about hygiene right now. I don't really care about food right now. I got a monster breathing down my back that says, feed me. It's called alcohol, and it has to be fed, or I'm about to get really, really ill. And if I can get alcohol and Valium in my body, I'm good. I'll figure it out later. I let it get a drink in me so I can figure out how not to drink anymore. Did you ever do this one? And I checked into my 6th treatment center, really through a miracle, and I signed out after a day and a half because I couldn't do it. And the trapdoors have trapdoors, and this is when homelessness met me. Now, my first night out on the street, I didn't think much of it until the sun went down and it got dark out. It was like, cool, I'm on the street, nobody cares. This is one, do whatever I want. It's great, I'm free. And I realized I have nowhere to sleep tonight, and I'm out of money, and it's getting dark. I'm in Lower Manhattan. How do you do this? I'm walking around with impending doom. I'm weak, I'm frail. A 4-year-old can knock me on my butt. I don't know what to do. Where do I get liquor? What do I do? When a book says we know loneliness such as few do, I know what they're talking about. And by accident, I found an abandoned building on the Lower East Side, and the back of abandoned building. I loved abandoned buildings because the cops rarely rolled through there unless there was something really bad happening. They never even went in. Even the drug dealers didn't go in there too often. In the back of this filthy hallway, I found my residency, my new residency, behind an old metal radiator. I was wearing construction boots. The right boot had no front. I had these blood-stained soiled pants. I remember I had a turtleneck and a short jacket. It's spring, summer, and I'm sweating and cold at the same time. I'm not eating, I'm not hydrating myself, I'm drinking, I'm living just to drink, and if I can get enough money to get pills, that's all I do and pass out. I come out and hustle money, drink, and do the same thing over and over again. I landed in some flea bag motel in Staten Island, New York, somewhere in this journey. And I'm laying in this bed in this flea bag motel, and there was a young lady who allowed me to stay with her, and she was a barmaid downstairs at the nightclub, and there was this motel upstairs. And I remember when she came in one night and crashed out, I went into her pocketbook to steal her money. She would make some good money tending bar. I figured I'd take her money, I'd have enough to run for a day or two, and I'd be okay. What I discovered in her pocketbook was a bunch of pills. They were Valium. And I thought I hit Powerball with this one. This is great. And I ate the pills. I washed them down, and I remember getting back into bed, and my thinking at the time was, it's over. I'm going to go to sleep and not wake up. It's over. Done. That was my way out of this. Prior to this event, I thought suicide was a gender issue. Women suffered from suicidal ideation. Women committed suicide, not men, because those were the belief systems I grew up with. Mom committed suicide. And the elders would tell me, Mom was a woman, Mom was weak, the Marinelli men don't do that, we need to take care of our women. So I didn't think men committed suicide or even thought about it. And as I'm starting to drift off after eating all of these pills, trying to kill myself, I had this moment of clarity. This has nothing to do with gender. This is alcoholism. This is what people in AA would shout about. This is what the therapists in treatment would tell me, that the time and place would come where if I can't get drunk, I'm going to look to kill myself. And that's what I was trying to do. And God interrupted my death because He had a greater plan for me to do. A different plan for me to fulfill. And kept interrupting my death. So here I am in this hallway. I used to run through the streets. Lost contact with my family. I remember being outside the Port Authority one particular day, and I'm struck with me. In the roar, if you will, of my condition. I reek, I'm filthy, I'm dying of alcoholism, and you, God, did this to me, and I screamed every four-letter curse word I could at God for doing this to me. You took my mom, you gave me this gangster that I call a dad who's coming, baffling, and powerful. We have no relationship. My brothers hate me. I have no relationship in my life. I'm a drunken bum, and I'm like 27. And God got all of it. How dark it is before the dawn. See, what we can get while we're sober is that we think things that feel painful are bad for us. That God's sending me or us the trials of Job because we really deserve it. And sometimes on this journey of recovery, we will be asked to do things. God will send us out on a journey. The sponsor will have us do things that feel painful. The relationship will be removed for us. It feels painful. We think it's bad. The job will be removed, the money will be taken from us, and it feels painful, therefore we think it's bad. And all God is doing is pruning the tree so we can bear good fruit, so others can eat from that vine. Because the reason why God got a guy like me sober, to be a maximum service to Him, not to drive around in a fancy car and have some reputation in AA, good or bad. It's to purely serve Him. So anything that gets in the way, He will remove. For the good of me and the good of others. If we have children and they're walking around with a sharp object, little ones, the first thing a loving parent does is take the sharp object away, because God forbid if they fall and hurt themselves. The kids think you're taking a toy away from them. They don't like that. I'm that way with God. God says, this is not good for you. I'm taking it. I say, I hate you. Stomp my feet and go into the next room. And then I get on the other side, or I start to grow up a little bit more spiritually, and I said, thank God, God took that from me. The process of recovery is removal, and very often the way God loves us is by removal. It's His way of giving, to keep me out of my own way, to keep me out of harm's way. By the time June of '88, God removed everything from me. There was no relationship, there was no money. I was in an abandoned building, homeless. I had no family. I mean, I had a family, but there was no contact with the family. And I didn't have a God in my life. I had no big book. I had no AA. I didn't believe in AA. I didn't believe in my church. I didn't believe in anything. Except one thing. A whiskey bottle I drink and I get drunk. It works. By the time 1988 showed up, did you ever have this where the liquor's not working anymore? It's just settling the stomach. It's just you'll be able to function a little bit. Function drunk, but you're not doing this. It's not working. I'm not getting to paradise off this drink anymore. I'm drinking just to breathe. I'm drinking just to exist. So it's not even working. And no matter how many pills I put in me, how much drink went in me, I couldn't get there anymore. The only thing that worked for so long was no longer working. I was really at the bitter end. And God kept pushing me to the edge to get my attention. And that happened on June 23rd, 1988. A day later, a day shy, you probably have a different speaker here tonight. Everything's perfect in God's world. What I need to know is God doesn't think like me. But I get to transcend my own thinking. We get to transcend earthly things and live in a godly world, in a spirit place. How often do we wake up I was saying this afternoon, wake up at 7 a.m. and maybe go to bed at around 10. And we have 15 hours of, moving around. And during those 15 hours, we spend maybe 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night with God. The rest is all self-reliance. We get up off our knees and we take over. We go to work and we take over. We're in relationships and we take over. And it's all fear-based and insecure. And we're wondering why I'm not right. God forbid I should spend maybe a half hour in the morning with God, an hour in the morning with God, or go through the day and have constant contact with God. and seek God for everything, including the clothes I'm going to wear and the food I'm going to eat. God, what do I do? God, what do I do? Turn in order to go out. Many of us are just walking around in self-reliance. We have an AA meeting, and sometimes our AA meetings, we have 300 self-reliance people sitting there just giving lip service to God. Because as soon as we get out on the highway, someone cuts us off, we're plotting their death. We're sitting in a meeting and figuring out how we're going to get better. How am I going to get spiritual? I need to get spiritual. How can I get that which is never lost? All I need to do is unhook from my thinking mind all the manifestations of self and just go home, go in. What the 12 steps do is just cut away everything, and we find God was there all the time. Just blocked by me and my own bondage of self, my own obstacles that I create. Give me drama, I'll take 3 for $1. You notice how we're attached to drama? If it's just really good, we're quiet, really nice, everything's good. And the mind will say, yeah, but remember that, and we're in again. Now, if I don't have drama, what I'm going to do is look for you. You got any drama? I'm in your drama. And if you and I don't have drama, let's invent drama, because we love drama. Let's talk about somebody, because we love them, but we're going to talk about them. Because none of us gossip, I know. And so we're going to do stuff like, I got to do something, because being present means I'm still. And being still means I have no mind. That kind of feeling is so foreign and so uncomfortable, I jump right back into the tornado again. I'm so entrenched in my own thinking. I'm so entrenched in all the manifestations of self and all the roles my mind is telling me to play, that as soon as I hear the godly voice, I can't even recognize what it's telling me. It sounds foreign. I dismiss it because I'm not used to hearing it. I'm used to hearing all this other stuff until we run out of road. And I surrender again. Now I start to listen. Could this be God? Is this God talking to me? Is this speaker talking to me? Is my sponsor talking to my spirit? And little by slowly, manifestations of self drift off with the work. And then once I lock into this godly way of living, not perfect, but seeking God at all costs, now I can recognize the self showing up. Now I can recognize the mind showing up. I'll buy into it once in a while. But for the most part, I'm not. We don't anymore. We wear the world, as the carpenter said, like a loose garment. Be in the world, not of the world. I'm not attached to things. I like nice things, but they don't own me. We define ourselves so often, I did, by my job. I am my job. I am my money. I am my relationship. I am my car. I am this. Anything outside, and we forget about nurturing the spirit and getting soul food, because that's who we really are. Because money comes, money goes. Jobs come, jobs go. Relationships sometimes come and go too. People die. We live in a world of impermanence. I'm going to lock my future into something that's very volatile, like worldly things. Life is problematic, and I'm going to try to derive some sorts of security and spirituality for something that looks like the stock market, rather than God, which is steady, pristine, and constant, and always consistent, and always available. So I got into this 7 treatment center, and about 10 days I'm laying in there, and I almost walked out, because I needed to drink again. The hideous 4 horsemen, putting it mildly. Here I am detoxing again. I'm a coward, I can't do this. That remorse and guilt is on you when you start to sober up. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And the first time, so this is the first time I had sobering up, I thought of my family. Oh my God, what did I do to them? And let me just die or get drunk, either one right now. And I was about to walk out, and they sent me off to Minnesota. And while I was out in Minnesota for 6 weeks of treatment, it became almost a year's stay out there. And something happened to me. I started to hear this message from this book by speakers who were living this way of life, men and women, and I was suddenly attracted to spiritual men. I was kind of not attracted to those gangster type of people anymore. They turned my stomach. I didn't want to be around that. I was attracted to spiritual men. I was attracted to men who got to the podium and talked about God and wept. Women had grace and dignity, not the type of female I was used to hanging around with. Everything changed. My point of view was being forced upon me to be changed. And I wanted what they had to offer, but how do you get there? And what these men and women do is invite me into their life. Regardless of how I sounded and what I looked like, they said, come with us, you're home. And after about a year, I was brought back home to Brooklyn. I found my first teacher, and we began a journey through the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous. And another huge, spectacular upheaval. I've been married and divorced. I've had money and almost had to file for bankruptcy. I had a few health scares. I buried too many people in AA. I lost some family members. I've had the highs, I've had the lows, and not once in my mind say, let's have a drink. That is indeed the miraculous for someone like me, because the sun came up, I'm drunk, but it said I'm drunk again. The problem was removed. And I continue to seek this power at the dash basin of a drowning man. I'm now a member of good standing in my church because of Alcoholics Anonymous and the process of 4 through 9. And because of Alcoholics Anonymous, I put my head on a pillow at night, and maybe it's not the day I planned, but it was always a good day. I'm going to bed without intentionally harming people. I don't steal anymore. I seek my God. I pray and meditate a few times a day. I sponsor people. I have friends in my life. Loyalty to my friends. And they accept me with my failings, and I accept them with their failings. This is the walk with God, the walk with the Lord. What a great walk compared to having a bottle attached to me. And when I go into prayer, I don't go in to recharge my batteries anymore. I used to think go into prayer, recharge my batteries. What self-centered, selfish behavior is that? I'm going to prayer so God feed me. I go into prayer to serve Him. I pray to God and ask Him, what do I do? If I'm not talking surrender, I'm not talking to God. How can I meet God if I'm playing God? How can I serve God if I am God? So little by slowly, I chop wood and carry water. And one of the great things, many great things have happened to me is through the practice of meditation. God has answered riddles in my life, and I come away with knowing that I'm known by my Creator. So I continue to worship this power and shout it from the rooftops, regardless of who gets annoyed by it. I hope you're not annoyed when we come to AA and we hear about God. It is the solution out of here. A lot of people try to dance around that, but at the end of the day, we have to come face to face with this power called God. And we go into prayer not to recharge our batteries, but unhook the shackles around my wrist that I put on in the first place. And transcend all of this, but yet have the feet firmly planted on the ground. And I get to sit in silence so I can hear, and darkness to see. And I get up off the mat. And on most days, I'm walking with God. Okay. And I'm able to see your spirit, which convinces me there is a God. When you give me unconditional love, it convinces me that there is a God. And when I give you unconditional love, it convinces you there is a God. With no conditions on it. You don't have to do anything. It's just for fun and for free. When my family loves me with all my shortcomings, and I love them back with all their shortcomings, we both speak to each other about the power of God. Indeed, the miraculous. So I hope to always get this message away with the same love and gratitude that is given to me with. I hope to continue to starve this ego and feed the spirit and get my soul food. And continue to seek God with the desperation of a drowning man and be of maximum service to others. This is my life, my AA. It is my life. I don't have a life without it. My life is none of my business. I don't have a life. Because of AA, I do have a life. My recovery is not even for me anymore. God gives me recovery, but it's to go bear witness to others, and somehow He feeds me. The more service I do, the fuller my belly is. If you want to have an empty belly, serve no one. If you want to be void of spirit, be self-centered and serve no one. Get yours and go home. But if you want to feel full spiritually, give the whole thing away. Life of a servant. My God was the greatest servant ever to hit the planet. Change the planet. I can do what He's done. We can do what He's done. And simply by helping a drunk or the homeless person on the street, what does it take to give them a buck or two when I have a $7 Starbucks in my hand? Maybe ask their name. What's your name? Give them a little dignity. Give them a little respect. How do I not know that's God sitting in that person right now? God's not a respecter of men. He's in all of us. So I chop wood and carry water. That's all I got, man. Peace.
Customary to take some time after the meeting to thank Pete. Personally, it means a lot. They travel a lot. Pete and Marion came up here to share this whole day with us. It's really been a great epic day with every single one of us. Man, we kind of do this almost every week, but not to this level. How blessed. We're so lucky in Doylestown. I mean, don't tell nobody about this. I always kid people, you know, that when I'm telling about this meeting, I usually say, listen, we're the only meeting in all of Alcoholics Anonymous where we say, please don't come back, we need the seat. And they like look at me. I go, alcoholics always do the opposite anyway. But anyway, look, we got a nice way of closing. Thanks for coming out. We've got a lot of cleaning up to do. Anybody wants to do any service work that Pete's talking about, hang around afterwards. Thank you.